he said, yeah, I'm a 12th round pick, but I'm going to spend 4 months absolutely working to get better. And we saw it, man, the amount of progress that this guy had just from like the 4 or 5 months ago when we were skating in during the lockdown in Tilbury or whatever. It's like, it's immeasurable.
Here's the thing though. It was it is the summer before his major Bantam year. He really came up to me and said, like, I really, really want to get this. Like, I really want to be better at hockey. In a kid's words, that's what he kind of said. Yeah. And I can say this, that every time we skated, he was there. Like he was at every one that he could possibly attend. And when he came to work. And every single skate, would come up to me before I got off the ice and he would say, well, what do I need to get better at? Every time after he picked up the pucks, because he always did that. And when I would go set up a drill or something, he'd move pylons and stuff. He's a leader. He's going to be a captain of that team one day. Every single time he would say, what do I need to get better at? And I would give him something. And there was things that, I had to stay on. Like one of the things was when he would do tight turns, I found he uses too much edge and he couldn't be tight enough. So it was like, I don't need to explain the whole thing, but it wasn't, couldn't separate himself very much and he couldn't make it tight enough. So it was like kind of almost irrelevant and he looked a little clumsy. So I gave him, that was one thing. Another thing that first summer was his shooting, like how to tighten up the shooting in stride, keep the puck tighter with him and stuff like that. That was another thing. Worked his hands a little bit and stuff like that. And then positionally some stuff. But the reason I'm saying that is because you don't just work hard and it happens. So he spent that summer, the hockey season, the next summer, which was the COVID one, all COVID winter working out and honing his skills whenever we could throughout, right up until training camp. So essentially he went maybe 2.5 years of really, really working hard. So my point is that he just didn't get better all of a sudden. And what I want people to understand is the mindset of this. Because I said it to Seabass yesterday before he left, when he stopped in here for the day to get his stuff, his underwear and stuff so he can go move again. Yeah. I said, well, I didn't say this part. The point I'm making is that there's little wins within that big win. The little win was number one, that he made a decision. And once you decide to, like you could say, I could try to lose 5 pounds. If you try to lose 5 pounds, you're not losing 5 pounds. You're going to lose 5 pounds. And you're going to find a way to do it, and you're going to do it. No matter what it takes, you're going to do it. If you make that decision, you're going to do it. So he made a decision, and maybe it was an immature decision, but he vocalized it, and he said it to me that I want to be a better hockey player. So that was one win. He made a decision. The second win is that he showed up every day. He showed up every single time with me. He showed up every single time in the workouts here. And that's a win number 2. The win number 3 with all that is that he showed up to get better with intention, with purpose. So those are 3 huge wins right there. Mm-hmm. The next thing is that the next win is that you can, maybe you didn't recognize it, but when you actually do something and you improve on something, it's another notch in your belt, it's another win, where mentally you say, okay, I did that. So he's seen himself get a whole bunch of wins and realize that it amounts to something. And so the point that I told him yesterday was, do you see what you've accomplished? You've done the impossible. Like, it's not impossible, but you've basically done the impossible. You've done something where you're not supposed to be the guy that they signed, and you signed. So remember that as you're moving forward, that you can actually do anything that you choose to do. So there's not a mountain out there that's too big. You just have to chip away at it, one step at a time, right? It might take 3 years, but you know how to do this. You know how to conquer skills that you're not good at, situations that you were average. I mean, to be very honest with you, he was second fiddle to Charlie and maybe another person or two on our team.
Well, that's another point I was going to make. I forgot about that. It's like always in Charlie's shadow playing. Yeah. Anytime they were doing anything. 100%. Right? That's another shit 100%. Sandwich. Yeah.
And they happened to be best friends. Yep. So it was never rubbed in his face or anything, but he's always had to, like even the draft, he came over the next day and he was so happy for Charlie, and he saw Charlie getting all this press, and he saw Charlie getting, all his gear the next couple of days, and shirts and hats. And he waited like a month and a half to get his hat and jersey when the general manager stopped in. He was like, I wonder if I'm even going to get a hat.
Yeah.
You know, and he's watching my son with brand new skates with his number and his name on it, and all his gear and T-shirts and hoodies, and like he's been treated like God, his school package, all this kind of stuff, and you know, but he watched that, and he had a, you know, but on the other side, as a friend, he was really, his dad told me this too. He goes, he's so pumped up. He goes, because he's watching how Charlie's getting treated, and he wants that. So subconsciously, he was sitting there, I'm going to get that. But anyways, it's the bottom line is he won on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And it's the old saying, right? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
And that's what he did, day after day, one bite, and next thing you know, she's gone, and he's ready.
You were saying how, you know, he had a bunch of little wins leading up to this, and I forget who the saying was from. I think it was like a Tony Robbins thing or whatever. And he's talking about how, like, no big accomplishment comes by accident. You know, people only notice the big accomplishment, but there's all kinds of things you do up to that accomplishment that nobody looks at, and that you might not even notice. So for Seabass, I know for a fact this was the case. Like he did not notice each step he was taking along the way until now, when he can look back and realize, oh shit, like all this stuff I did. Oh yeah, like I remember I got better. Like this day I remember that this thing happened where I realized I was getting better. And this day and this day. And he doesn't necessarily realize it or see it in his own mind that he did those things until he gets the big accomplishment. Yeah. Because nobody keeps track of the little accomplishments.
Well, dude, I remember the day. I honestly, I remember the day, because he used to have like an okay shot, but in my world, I'd consider it a muffin. Mm-hmm. And I remember the day. It was not the exact. It wasn't like March 13th, but it was. But it was between January and February this year. Yeah, January and February this year, where his muffin turned into a hockey player's shot. Yeah. I remember it. All of a sudden, one day I went, Seabass. I said, good rip. And you think something I said earlier, one of the skills we had to work on was getting a shot up to snuff. And he would try, and I would, you know, I'm not coaching him 24/7 on it, but it's like, quicker. Right. You're showing too much. You have to hide it. Have to keep your feet moving. Yeah. Don't pull it back your heels. I've said that to him over the last 2.5 years, 300 times, and just said, hey, remember here, right here. Mm-hmm. Strength is here. Quickness is here. And I remember the day where it went like that. Yeah. And then it went from that day on, he's been shooting like a junior hockey player.
Right. And he probably went home after that and was like, oh, like, yeah, and Coach Andy gave me a nice compliment today. Yeah. Not thinking like, I just made a huge step to getting better. Right. Like he didn't think that. There's no chance.
Right.
So, but now, because he was going over camp with me when we were talking on the phone on the weekend, and he was saying that he started to really get some confidence after fitness testing, because he did above average in everything and better than the 05s in almost everything. And then he came like 1-2 in the 2-mile run and was like lapping guys like by a mile. Yeah. He was leading. Yeah. And he's like, he started to get some confidence, and maybe in that moment he starts to realize, okay, like I've actually gotten a lot better and faster and stronger, and I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Yeah. But you don't realize those small things. Like I could lay out 100 things through the last 4 months that Seabass and a bunch of the guys, not just Seabass, but that they actually improved on, that they probably don't even realize was like a huge improvement. Whether it was like the speed, like one of the easy ones I remember in here was we would always do sprint starts as part of our warm up. Yeah. And that was something for Charlie. That was one of his most improved things this summer. For Seabass as well, like starting in these weird athletic postures they're not used to, and how they progress through the summer. And that's like a huge improvement. And that's not something that they would tally as a big win, right? It's a little win. Yeah. And it goes to your point. Like there's little things, little wins they were getting all along the way that just manifest now in this big accomplishment. But he was still, for Seabass, getting shit after shit every week for the whole summer, whether it was drafted late, can't come to skate because it's locked down now, or whatever it was, cut from junior B, all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. He was still getting hits, still taking hits until boom, now you get it. Yeah. So you had 100 little wins that you didn't realize because you're putting in the work, and that is the amazing thing about, if you just come to work, man, and you just pay attention.